All right, well, let's see if we can keep up our connection. All right, I'm going to try to just do some regular development here and talk a little, but actually keep trying to develop. This is a skill I'm trying to develop, so if you happen to be somebody that watches this, thank you. My idea is that maybe you can keep working while you're watching this. This is how I watch some coding live streams and always appreciate it. Kind of makes me feel like I'm coding with somebody, see what they're doing, and maybe I learn things during the process. But I also want to talk about things that I'm doing as I'm doing them until I'm kind of waiting to the end of the day, and I'll actually forget why I'm doing certain things. So what we have here is, let's just run this. We have our datasets page. I don't know why 3 of those show, and then 2. I think it's filtering down, and there's a page load trick that I might have to implement here that I always forget, and I'll have to go find the notes on that because of the theme that I'm using or something like that. I can't remember. So when I click create new dataset, so what's going to happen here, we could go to a page and then like you'd fill out all the dataset details and then click save and you'd have your dataset. I don't want to do that. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. What I would really like is just click this and then the new data set appear kind of with a default name, and then you go into that and edit it just like you'd edit any existing data set. So that's the idea. So we go into Page Designer and we're going to have a process. So what will happen is when you click this, it will go to a link. The link is this exact same page, but it'll set the request header to create data set. See? And then if this is create data set, we'll run this process. And this is the create new process. So we're going to execute code. And what I did is just stubbed out what I wanted. App.create new data set. Now, I think we just use create data set, but this is where I don't want to actually call app. I want to always make calls from as much as possible. You can't always do it, but for the bulk of the calls that I make to the back end, I want to use app UI if I'm coming from the UI. That way I know that I have some way of testing this and not breaking it here. I have some way of testing it on the back end so I can write some tests. But I hate when I make changes on the back end and then my UI starts breaking and I can't figure out where it's broke. So this is a way to segregate that a little bit. So what I needed to do is create the app UI package header and package body. We'll go to app install here, and we'll go ahead and add those in. And I think I'll just put app UI pkg h.sql. And the body. So we've done that, and I've already started writing it. So basically create dataset on the UI side is calling create dataset from app. Now we have to provide a key, the name, description, all that. So I'm just grabbing a copy of the table and calling it D, and then D dataset key, and figuring this stuff out. So this would be, we'll call the name new dataset. And description will be something like this data set is ready to be configured. And then as far as the data set key, I started to have to think about what do I really want here. So if we go here and we look at our data sets, our datasets table, you see I'm naming this default dataset user ID 264. So I put that in, and And hang on a sec. Make sure. And this helps me designate what is the default data set if I ever want to add something to the default data set. But got me thinking, I really don't care. The data set key really is only for me, the app developer. And I could just put a random string in there if I wanted. I really don't need this. I don't see any other data sets that I'm going to need to identify or derive the key from. And so we could just stick with this, or we could add a to-do, and we could change and add a column to our table here. That's a little bit bigger of a change. Kind of afraid to do that one while I'm recording this, but probably would add a default flag, and then you would have a default data set. You'd only have one. The other thing you could do is create, usually you have a table, I don't have it yet, but a table with your users in it. So K2 provides you a SaaS auth table for your users, but normally you have an app, you'll create an app user table, and then anytime a row gets added to SaaS auth, a row will get added to app user. And we could put in there a column called default data set, and we could keep that column updated. So that would be another way to do it. If we were going to have millions and millions of data sets, that might be a better way because there's going to be fewer rows in there and it's going to be easier to find. Whereas if we have millions and millions of data sets and we're really looking for the default data set a lot, that's a lot of rows that doesn't have a high cardinality. There's basically true false. That's all it is. And there's ways around that in Oracle, and it might perform fine, depending on the type of index we use and stuff like that. But those are things you could think about. The easiest thing to do would just be put a flag in here called default, and that makes more sense than this. This is kind of hokey. So from a design standpoint, let's go ahead and so if I change that, I'm gonna have to change my tests and all that kind of stuff. It's actually quite a bit of work. Let's just to see if we can get this working before we change it. Let's not do that right now. We'll come back to that. I won't do that live. So let's go back to our code. And let's just generate a data set key. And so what we can do is let's use one of our, how about a random string? And there's lots of ways to get random strings in ArcSQL. I have a way that I like to use, and it's string random right there. And we just call ArcSQL string random a length. It'll be 33 if we don't, and string type. AN is alphanumeric. So let's just do string random alphanumeric for our key. So let's call ArcSQL string random, and it's putting the length in there, yeah, and it's all it defaults. So we'll just put a 32 random key in there, and that should work. Okay, so now we just need to, I'll walk through this in just a second too. It's using app user, so we're using the SaaS auth package to user ID. It'll convert that app user to a user ID for our user ID column, and we'll do this. So let's just see if this will compile. So I already have my chart install file up, and have I not saved? Did that? Where? Did I not save app install? Let me see. App. Oh, that's tricky. That app install should not be there, and it threw me off. And I don't know why that's there. That's a bug. That chart install gets created from app installer, gets renamed, and app install should go away. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to try to remember to go see why that was even there. I might have done a merge at some point where I shouldn't have. So it might not really be a bug. It might have been something I did. So let's run these. And that compiled. And that does compile. Nothing compiles the first time. All right. Type must be. Yeah. Did I do type instead of row type? Yeah. How about row type? Run it again. Okay. So that compiles. And so all we got to do now are really simple. We just got to call create appui.create dataset from our front end here. So we'll pull this in. We'll get rid of that. We try to make the front, what we call, anything we do here, just as simple as possible. Okay, and we'll check that. Oh, that ain't working because this is the app UI package. All right. So now we just need to modify. Let's go back to here, and we'll look at our cards region. Let's look at this. This is ugly. This is going to be refactored. I'm just trying to figure things out. If I came across this, I would barf. What we want to do is, again, how do we make this as generic as possible so that if I change it, I can I don't break here. And here we're not using, like if I wanted to change dataset name, that's going to break. So maybe we turn this into a view, and then we give generic column names to the view, and as long as we keep those the same, we can change stuff behind the back end without breaking the UI. So something like that. We'll see. So here our target page is dataset. That's what we want. Dataset ID. No. Okay. So yeah. Now that's to open a dataset. Here's create dataset. So the target page is actually dataset. We're changing this to use the same page, which is nice. But the request is going to be create dataset. And that should run that process. Uh-oh. What did I do? Oh, dataset ID. To char. That needs to be to char. Okay. All right. We've got some ugliness there. That's going to call that. That is going to process. We want it to run when the page loads, once per page visit. Yeah, okay. Save. Run. Click it. And let's just see what happened if it got created on the back end or if there's errors. Still getting too much generic debug data that I don't want. I need to find that in the code base and reinstall. I don't see any error there, but we don't see the debug call either. I don't know that that ran. So like now I don't know if this process ran because I'm not submitting the page when I do that, but I thought it would run. So what we do here, let's put a debug call in here. I know there's lots of other ways to do this within Apex. So I'll just do like UI : create a data set. Okay. Save. And now that didn't do what I wanted to do. Why did this go to? Oh yeah, that's wrong. What is this page name? Yeah, data sets. Okay, I think I got that wrong. Try this again. pull this up. This goes to data sets. Data sets. Save. Run. Click. And checking debug. Not seeing. I know these are not. These are all. Okay, that's not running. So we know that process is not running. And here I'm going to demonstrate some of my ignorance. Normally you would submit the page. Let me think. Probably somebody who sees this will be like, oh, the answer is obvious. I want this to run. I want this code to execute. Let's do after header. Why not? Haha. App UI has errors. Uh-oh. Aha. Well, that would make it not run. I don't know why that error wasn't floating to the top. Probably something to think about. Okay, so description must be declared. So obviously the name of my table is, what is the column name? Go to app schema. How about data set description? Okay, that should fix that. And so we don't change too many things, let's go ahead and put this back after the processing. Run this. Oh, thought it was going to work. Thought my new data set was going to show up. Okay, so that, let me see. Okay, it called UI create dataset. Cool. That's cool. Not seeing any errors here. Let's just look at debug. See if something happened there. I don't think it would cause it to throw an error, but that was old, right? I already solved the package body issue. Now is when we want to do let's just clear all that out. Try it one more time. Now we don't see it. All right. Okay. So, probably ran when we changed this to after header. This time I'm going to hit that. I think it's going to run. I think it's going to work. And there's our new data set. Okay. All right. So that's somewhat working. Now, here's the next problem. If I do this again, aha. We got a unique constraint error on what? Okay, so 7S, it should have come up. Let's look at our schema. Unique index on data set name user. Data set name must be unique within the user. That doesn't work, does it? So let's fix that. Data set name. Let's say data set. And then how about to char, reduce sysdate. So this is bad practice because, and that's AI finishing that for me, which is nice. Because we don't have time zone or anything like that, so let's just not worry about, like, I could change that to like sys timestamp, and we do have ways of getting the user's time zone and then converting that to a time that makes sense to them, and we probably should do that. But for now, I want to make something. We're just going to do an arc SQL string random 4, and we'll just call it new data set with that. New data set string random 4. All right, we like that. Recompile. Got a bug. It's dot. All right, go back. Click OK. And where did our, okay, there's new data set. Interesting. Try it again. There we go. So now we're creating, so a lot of times you want to check your UI and just make sure you can do goofy stuff like this. Another thing I'll do a lot is I'll go look at the table itself and just make sure all the columns have data that I expect to have data. So yeah, we have one that's protected, which is our default data set. And yeah, we don't have created and we don't have updated. And I'm not sure what I'm doing with that. I don't remember. So, but this is working. And then what would happen, this would be like a different color. And I'm going to minimize. This would be like a different color, and it would be pinned like right here. Well, I'm really sinking down. I haven't had my camera up. So you'd be able to see this, and it might come at the end, and then as it gets too long, maybe you'd have one at the end, or maybe you could make it, if you're really good at CSS or something like that, you could make that move, right? It would, as you scroll down, it would show up at the bottom also. That would be pretty cool. It's at the top, and then first deal, and then it would also be at the bottom, because you might get to the bottom and say, I need to create a data set. That's if you have tons and tons of these. We're going to have something called supersets, which you'll be able to create, where I'd be able to like take all of these and put them in a single superset, and then you'd only see the superset here, and when you clicked it, it would act as a single data set, but it would be lots of other data sets. Okay, so, well, that wasn't too bad. I am not sure about the, I need to look into if that is the best place to run this on the header. The only time it's going to run is when this request values create data set. So we'll see about that. Anyway, that is all for now.